You ever have one of those moments where just know, that something in your life is about to change, and not for the better? Where the air feels thick, your stomach sinks, and even the quiet around you feels dangerous. For me, that moment came on a Tuesday night in late October. The house was quiet. Not the cozy kind of quiet you get when someone's reading in the next room, but the cold, distant kind that feels like a warning. I was sitting on the couch with my phone in my hand, mindlessly scrolling through emails I didn't need to answer. The TV was on, playing some sitcom laugh track, but I wasn't watching. In the kitchen, I could hear Claire moving dishes around. Cabinet doors opened and closed, no music playing, no humming like she usually did. She wasn't making dinner. She wasn't even talking to me. Just moving things like she was keeping her hands busy to keep from thinking. And then I heard it, the sound of a zipper. Not just any zipper, a suitcase zipper. I froze. I didn't even turn my head right away. It was like my brain needed a few seconds to process what that sound meant. But when it clicked, my heart started pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I got up and walked toward the bedroom, my legs heavy, and there she was, Claire, standing by the bed, folding clothes into a small black carry-on. Her hair was tied up in a messy bun, her face calm but pale. She didn't even look at me. "What's going on?" I asked, my voice quieter than I intended. She kept folding. "Claire," I tried again. "What are you doing?" She finally stopped and looked up at me, and I'll never forget her expression. She wasn't angry. She wasn't crying. She just looked tired, drained. "I'm leaving for a while," she said softly. "I can't do this anymore." I stared at her, trying to make sense of the words. "What do you mean you can't do this?" "This," she said, gesturing between us. "This marriage, this life. I feel like I'm invisible to you, Jake. Like I'm just here to keep the house running while you live somewhere else in your head." I wanted to argue, to tell her she was wrong. But deep down, I knew she wasn't. Claire and I had been married 12 years. We met in our late 20s in Chicago, me working at a marketing agency, her freelancing as a graphic designer for one of our clients. I still remember the first time I saw her. She was sitting in a coffee shop with her laptop, glasses sliding down her nose, typing like she was solving the world's problems. She had this spark about her, this way of making you feel like you were the only person in the room when she looked at you. I fell for her fast. We started dating, and within months we were inseparable. We took late-night drives just to see where we'd end up. We'd sit in diners at 1 a.m., drinking coffee and talking about our dreams. We made each other laugh until our sides hurt. When I proposed, I wasn't nervous. I was certain. She was my best friend. I couldn't imagine life without her. In the early years of our marriage, everything felt like an adventure. We moved into a tiny apartment with peeling paint and a view of an alley, but we loved it. We decorated with mismatched furniture from thrift stores, cooked meals together, burned some of them, and laughed about it. We didn't have much, but we had each other. But life changes. I got promoted. Claire started her own design business. We bought a house in the suburbs. We got busy, so busy that we started putting our marriage on the back burner. Date nights turned into "we'll do it next weekend." Weekend getaways turned into maybe when things slow down. And things never slowed down. It didn't happen overnight. It was slow, like a boat drifting from shore. One day you look up and realize the land is far away. I started staying late at the office. Sometimes it was real work. Sometimes it was just easier than coming home to whatever we'd become. Claire stopped asking me to join her for dinner. I stopped asking how her day was. She'd tell me about a project she was working on, and I'd nod while checking my phone. I'd mention a client meeting, and she'd say, "That's nice," while scrolling Instagram. We weren't fighting. We just weren't connecting. And somehow, that was worse. At night, we'd lie in bed, back to back. We didn't hold hands like we used to. Sometimes we'd go days without touching, except for a quick goodbye kiss in the morning. Looking back, I can see the signs. But at the time, I told myself it was normal. Every couple goes through phases. I figured once work settled down, we'd get back to normal. We didn't. That night in October, watching her pack, I realized this wasn't a phase. This was the edge of the cliff. "Claire," I said, my voice cracking, "please don't go." She shook her head. "I've been telling you for years that I feel lonely. You never hear me." "I do hear you," I insisted. "No, Jake. You listen just enough to answer, but you don't hear me. You don't see me anymore." I didn't know what to say. She zipped the suitcase and walked toward the door. "Where are you going?" I asked. "To my sister's. I need space." And then she was gone. The first night without her felt unreal. The house was too quiet, too still. Her coffee mug wasn't on the counter. Her shoes weren't by the door. Her side of the bed stayed cold. I kept expecting her to come back in, roll her eyes, and say, "I just needed to scare you a little." But she didn't. I ordered takeout and stared at the TV without hearing a word of it. I walked past the bedroom and stopped in the doorway, looking at the half-empty closet. And I felt this pit in my stomach, this deep, sinking knowledge that I'd pushed her away. It hit me like a freight train. This was my fault. 4 days later, I couldn't take it anymore. I called her. "Claire, please," I said, "come home. We can fix this." Her voice was calm but distant. "I'm not ready, Jake. You don't change in 4 days. I need to know this isn't just panic because I left." "Then tell me what to do." "You need to want to do it, not because I tell you to. Figure out why you stopped caring. Figure out if you even want this marriage." That was the hardest part, looking in the mirror and facing the truth. Somewhere along the way, I had stopped prioritizing us. I treated her love like it was a given, like she'd always be there no matter what. So I started making changes. Real changes. I left the office earlier. I started leaving my phone in another room when I was home. I booked sessions with a marriage counselor, just me at first, because she wasn't ready. I started cooking again, badly, but with effort. I went through old photo albums and remembered who we used to be, and every day I wrote her a letter. Not begging her to come home, just telling her what I loved about her, what I missed, what I was grateful for. It was 3 weeks before she came back. She didn't say she was moving back in, just that she'd stay a couple nights. We sat at the kitchen table that first night and actually talked. She told me how invisible she'd felt, how she'd stopped dressing up for me because I never noticed, how she wondered if I'd care if she left for good. I told her the truth, that I'd been selfish, distracted, arrogant, that I thought she'd never leave, and I promised her I was done living like that. We're not perfect. We still have our moments. But now we notice when we start to drift, and we fix it before it's too late. Friday nights are ours, no phones, no work. Sunday mornings, we make breakfast together. I tell her she's beautiful every day. I don't take her for granted anymore, because I almost lost her, and it was my fault. But I got lucky. She gave me another chance. So if you're married, if you're in love, don't wait until they're standing at the door with a suitcase to realize what they mean to you, because you might not get a second shot.